Hi everybody, Chris here from Truly Holistic. I want to talk about tensor rings, share it with you, and from a quantum perspective. And I'm going to use the example of I've got a cup of coffee here, right? With minus the coffee, I've already had it, but just to use this as a proper example, is that obviously whether this is water or whether this is coffee, whether this is food, obviously, if we analyze what's in that substance, we're going to find out the nutrients, the minerals, the elements, and everything that make up that beverage or that food or whatever we're going to be using. So, an example of coffee, it's going to have caffeine and it's going to have a number of other compounds and minerals and elements that make up this drink, and all the ingredients that make up coffee. Um, and that's what we can call the beverage of coffee or food or water or whatever we choose. Now, when we bring it into the field of the tensor rings, because the thing of the tensor ring, and let's just grab this first tensor ring, without even talking about the cubit measure, because we know obviously with a tensor ring that it creates a tensor field, but also the added bonuses which makes a particular tensor ring unique is its cubit measure. So obviously the tensor ring creating a tensor flow is going to what we call invert entropy, okay, which means it's going to reverse or flip chaotic field that's unstructured, okay, it has no symmetry geometry to a field that is more harmonious and more compatible and therefore more structured, so it's going to show more symmetry and geometry, okay. So when we place a beverage or a food substance within that field, within that ring, because it's going to create a column, right? What it's gonna do is it's gonna remove any of the substances which make up that beverage, as I said, minerals, elements, and so on. And the field, because everything's energy, right? Everything's an energetic field. It's just going to flip anything that is non-compatible or chaotic into a more harmonious field. Now, what does that mean when you're about to then drink that beverage? Well, it's going to allow that to be more compatible to you. So that may have an effect on people that have problems with coffee, right? Or something within the coffee, whether it's caffeine or whether it's a element or mineral or an ingredient that normally would create an issue in your digestive system. You might be more bioavailable to your body when we place it within that field. Now, the second thing, as I said about a tensor ring, is then its cubit measure. Okay, so any tensor ring is going to create that inversion or invert entropy. Okay, now the cubit measure brings in an added bonus because what that cubit measure does is it brings in as an anchor to bring in a specific frequency or a spectrum of frequencies. Okay, and when you then place that beverage in it, every aspect of what makes up that beverage, as I say, elements, minerals, and so on, is then going to be connected to that level of where that frequency takes it. Okay, so for example, these rings together that we use here at Truly Holistic, which are used with cubit measures that I was intuitively guided about, because here at Truly Holistic, our goal and our focus is to ascend. And to ascend is to re-establish your connection to everything that you are, not only as a human, but as a soul, as a collective of souls, which we can call higher selves, which are all interfacing a number of realities. That's why we call ourselves multidimensional. But they're all connected to the same energy, but through quantum entanglement, because they're all connected to the same source of energy. It's a bit like a family tree kind of scenario going on. So when we use the three rings, because one of them gets you to the door, which is the sacred heart, and then another cubit then takes you and connects you to your multidimensional aspect, your higher selves, and then the next cubit measure of ring takes you to your source of your energy. So when you do that on the body, then that's what it's connecting to you. But that's the same thing that when we use a beverage, water, coffee, anything that's within it, all the elements, all the minerals, as I say, when we place that within those three rings, because of those cubit measures, okay, not the tensor field, but because of the cubit measures, what it's trying to anchor in, it connects all those things to their higher aspects of themselves, okay, the elements, the minerals, and therefore they all work differently. So when you're trying to work on yourself to ascend you and connect to those higher aspects of you and embody it here while having a human experience, you want to feed that aspect of yourself. So you want them to therefore lift and ascend the elements, the minerals, and everything about your food and your water and your coffee at the same time. So you're feeding that higher aspect of yourself, because this will have that effect on you, but it will have an effect on every substance that you place within the field too. Okay, so, and then we often get the question, right, with tensor technology, is that where's the science to show, show proof of this? And the problem with science is a mind creation, and anything to do with the mind is got limitations to it, and we know that, right? Science has got limitations in its method of measurement. For example, a perfect example of that is we live in a reality that is limited by time and also by distance. When we go outside of this reality and we really get to a higher level of understanding, there is no distance, okay, outside of this reality. That's why we have things like quantum entanglement and quantum physics, where it doesn't matter how far you separate one particle to the other, one particle has an immediate influence on the other particle, because in the quantum level, in the quantum realm outside of this reality, there's no distance, okay? There's no distance. And so that's just talking about the limitations of distance, but also we can talk about the limitations of time. But what I'm trying to say is within this reality and a mind orientation of science, it doesn't have the abilities to measure the things that we're talking about and what we're using it, because this technology not only is part of this reality, but it's part of outside of this reality where there is no limitations, right? So that's why science has a really hard time to try and really provide the measurements to show evidence to this effect. But the evidence that we feel is through ourselves, right? What we feel and intuition and consciousness and all these other things. So I thought I'd talk about the tensor rings, okay? And as I say, the two properties of a tensor ring is obviously every tensor ring is going to create that tensor field, which is then going to invert entropy, flipping chaotic energy into more harmonious energy, which you're going to then see more structure. And that's what obviously Dr. Emoto's work shows, is you're writing like lava on a glass to throw that intention into the water. You're going to see a more symmetrical and geometric structure in regards to the water. And then if you use something that's more low vibrational, then that symmetry goes away, right? So you've got that, and you've also got the cubit measure, which is bringing something in as well. It's completely different, which is anchoring in either a specific frequency or a spectrum of frequencies, where it can elevate whatever you place within that field to a higher level. So I hope you've really enjoyed the video and learned something from it. Until next time, see you later.